Well, how about we go back to our phones and we talk with Carlos from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. WBYN is the station. Carlos, hi there. Welcome to New Life Live.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay. A little bit of allergy I was mentioning earlier, but then I'm fine. Yeah. How are
Lasted
you?
all week. Wow.
Yeah. Oh boy, it's been a tough one. It's been a tough. So, Carlos, what's going on? How can we help today?
I just wanted to, I actually trying to seek some direction and to get some clarity about a couple of things.
Okay.
I have a daughter who'll be graduating high school this year, and our relationship has been damaged because of directly the bitterness of her mother that she has towards me, and she has spilled this over to our child, and I began to see this when she was about 11. And I had run into a problem with the law back in 16, and what I seem to believe that it's possible that she may have had something to do with it. Right after I was arrested, she filed for divorce, and her behavior towards me was more toxic than it was during the whole course of our marriage.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, I had a couple opportunities to try to bond with my daughter as best as I could, only to come to find out, to be confirmed, that she was only with me or agreed to be with me because a situation had arose to where her mother was sick and she needed my help. So naturally I came out of my heart because I wanted to bond with my little girl and hopefully to try to reconcile some things with my ex-wife. And, you know, even if it was no more than being friends. But that didn't go well.
Okay, so to get to a question that we could help you with here. That's a sad situation you got going there.
In all of my efforts to try to reach out and to try to show that I care and that I wanted to be there have been to no avail. And after this last incident where I had to call the police because my daughter was being very disrespectful. She was staying with me for about a month while her mother was in rehab recuperating. The moment she got home, she started to show her true colors. And I wanted to find out what the problem was, and she was just very disrespectful, just to put it lightly, without getting into a whole lot of detail. And I had to call the police because she went to the drawer to get a knife to try to stab me with it. Mm-hmm. And I pulled her away, and I called the police, and then she called her mother, and her mother was getting on me and criticizing me for why would you call the police on your own child and all of this here. So she pretty much gave her the, you know what I mean?
Well, and I've got music playing, Carlos, so I have to go to a break. But when we come back, I think we can help you with some stuff here, and I'm sorry what you're going through. You're listening to New Life Live. Our phone number, 1-800-229-3000. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. If you need some help, we would love to come alongside you and give you that help. We'll be back right after this for more New Life Live. We are back. We got Carlos in a very, very tough situation with ex-wife and daughter. Carlos, just to start, what was it that you ended up with legal problems? What was that all about that you were involved with? Let us know about that.
Felony possession of a firearm.
Possession of a firearm?
Yeah.
And was that because you had had the firearm there with your wife when she was yelling or something like that?
No. doing some freelance work in the city because I was between jobs.
Yeah.
And I had gotten hurt. I didn't have any income coming in, and I took the risk of going out to, try to earn some money to try to keep us all comfortable.
Yeah.
Even though I really shouldn't have. And I was experiencing some problems that gave me great cause for concern for my safety as well as my family. Mm-hmm. So I started carrying. I had run into an incident with someone who, if it wasn't for the grace of God, somebody being there that knew both of us, it could have gotten really nasty.
Well, good. But, it's just good to hear that you weren't freelancing, shooting stuff up for somebody, because that's where I thought that was going. So I'm glad that wasn't the freelance work. And then the second thing that I'm curious about, and I'll turn this over to Jim and Jill, when you called the police on your daughter, how did that get to be so bad that you needed to do that? Help us understand that.
Certainly. All through her mother and I's marriage, there have been issues between us.
What does that mean?
We just weren't able to. Well, that simply means that I was open to see and admit that I had some issues and was willing to work on them. However, she was in denial of her issues. And I had suggested early on that we seek counseling. And her response to that was, you can go ahead to counseling. I don't need counseling because I'm not the one with the problem. And, of course, with that attitude, you could pretty much guess
right.
behavior,
Well, and Carlos, I mean, clearly there were issues here. You ended up in jail. Mom ended up in rehab. Daughter is angry. I hear that you're kind of this theme of disrespect. Wife disrespected you and was bitter. Now daughter disrespects you. And so there are a lot of things that create a lot of chaos here and confusion. And I think sometimes in wanting to connect with our kids, we, instead of being upset over their lack of respect, we have to ask ourselves, what does their behavior mean? What are they unable to verbalize that they're acting out? And to look at that, your daughter is struggling, and maybe respect isn't the first thing that should be required here. And to lean in and to own some of your stuff with your own kid, to be vulnerable in terms of sharing where you went wrong with things and the desire to do it differently.
If I may, I was trying to paint the clearest picture I possibly could in the short time that we have in the respective time, because I know you have thousands of callers.
Yeah.
And there's just not a whole lot. There's just not enough time to cover all the specifics to really give you a better understanding as to place and what led up to this.
Okay, well, I hear you, and we understand that. We're going to try to give you the best help possible. But if you could nail or reduce everything down to a single question, what would that question be?
Well, I want to know if there is any more that I could do to try to reach out to my kid.
Yes, there is, and I'm going to start with Jim. I've been thinking about this even before you ask it, but I want to hear from Jim, and then I'm going to give you my 2 cents after Jim gives you his $2, because he's exponentially wiser about this.
Carlos,
Jim.
Carlos, I have a phrase for you. It's actually something I got from a friend of mine named John Ortberg, and he always says, love God and do the right thing. And to try to fix this relationship with your daughter, this is not a quick fix. This is a long-term relationship. And you know what? There's great stories out there of people who have story. You have a story, and we probably don't know it all. But there's people out there who've had stories who have, over the long run, really had a good relationship with their kids. Steve and I have a very good friend named Dale. It took him years and a toxic wife who was pouring toxicity into the kids. And you know what? Today he's in a good relationship with him because he loved God and he did the right thing. It's long term, and I'll let them talk about it at the after the break. But there you go.
All right, we will go to a break, and really glad that you called. And Mary Beth will go to you after that break. You are listening to New Life Live. Tomorrow, transforming grief is that's what we're all going to be doing around here, and we'd love for you to join us. You can sign up. I think you can still get in. You don't have to leave your home. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll be back. We're back. Talking with Carlos. Jim, did you have some other things you wanted to say to Carlos?
No, I think, I'm guessing that, Carlos, there's some other things in your life that you've got to get it together with. And you know what? When you point a finger at somebody else, even your wife, ex-wife, there's three fingers pointing back at you. Get the help. You know, the way you lead for that child of yours is to lead with getting some counsel, getting as healthy as you can. And when that happens, your kids are going to follow, especially when they become adults and begin to understand all the stuff that's going on. So don't think that she has to respect you this moment. Now, again, I don't know what your other stories are, but work on those stories and get whole and heal. Do the right thing and love God.
So I want to be really accurate in what I'm saying here. I hope you'll hear it the way that I intended, Carlos. But, I was married previously, and she left and divorced me. And I went on a campaign to be sure that everybody knew, I was the good guy and she wasn't. Of course, then one day I realized God was just as much on her side because God's on everybody's side. But here's the thing. In me trying to look so good, and sometimes, I had to defend myself. People would say, well, what did you do to contribute to the divorce? Well, I didn't do anything to contribute to divorce because that's another person's choice. But I did finally have to come to grips that I had been a donor to the problems that we had. And then I went to work on what I put into the problems. She made the choice to divorce, and I really started to grow up when I started to, rather than defend, I hadn't caused a divorce, to deal with my peace. So I want to encourage you to move that direction so that you'll be the better man. Now, when it comes to your daughter, you and your wife got married, and your daughter had an expectation that you're going to stay together, that you're going to be in the same home, and she's going to be safe, and nothing bad's going to happen to her. Well, that didn't happen. And so your daughter, to the best of her ability, she doesn't trust you, and she doesn't trust her mother. She, like many kids, try to figure out, what's my strategy going to be to survive this world? I can't count on my parents. And who she is, her overreaction or whatever, that's the best she could do. And if you want to have a connection with her, you let her know that her expectations of you and her mom are not unrealistic, and that you didn't provide to her what she expected, and that you understand that she's doing the best she can, just like you're doing the best you can. And you let her know that there is nothing she can choose to do that will ever get you to stop loving her and wanting to be with her. I think the connection with her is admitting your failure, acknowledging her realistic expectation, which is this realistic expectation of any child, and then absolutely saying it in a way that she is finally convinced you are always going to be there. Mom may not be there, but you're going to be there. And that calling the police is not going to be an option. If it ever gets to that point, you let her know that you, Carlos, will leave the scene if it gets too bad. But let her know I'm not ever going to do that again. And let me send you a copy of, Jill.
Well, I'm just saying that's really good, Steve. You have to give up trying your case, especially with your kids. That doesn't help them. They need to hear that humility and that you're going to be there in the face of them wrestling. Because remember, their allegiance is torn in two. And if she's with mom more, then she's got to be, joined with mom. And so to do otherwise is a betrayal of mom. And so she's in a really tough spot. But to be there consistently, regardless of the disinformation that's thrown at you.
Well, I just think it's important that rather than defend yourself to your children to say, I did the best I could, which is commonly said, you need to jump over on the other side and see that your child is doing the best that they could come up with in trying to survive and get through without parents that stayed together in the marriage. It is tough. Rarely do I find humility to be a poor strategy when it comes to our kids.